A few days ago, user rfoster4 posted the following to the squash subreddit. One thing, long lost squash essay, looking for owner. A long time ago, before I had joined Reddit, there was some squash forum out there that I was on. I had read this essay on there called One Thing, and I copied it and put it to a Word document. But evidently, I did not copy the name of the author. This is a long story, and I think a very good one as it pertains to us, the squash community. I'm sharing in the hopes I can find the author and tell them thanks. This essay never left me on my journey through the sport. I have not edited or changed anything. Enjoy. Ask a squash player if they're competitive, and the likely answer is going to be yes. Squash is a sport. Sport is competitive. It follows. But here's a different question. Is being competitive the primary driver for playing the game? I'm willing to bet the chairman's house it's not. Most squash players play for the sheer fun and enjoyment of running around and smacking hell out of a ball, don't they? Would you derive greater pleasure from an emphatic victory over a clearly inferior opponent who has little or no answer to your game? Or would you feel greater satisfaction having been in a thrilling encounter where you are stretched and challenged, where you are stimulated by the grapple and tussle of every attack, every exhausting retrieval, and where the final outcome is always in doubt? Go on, admit it. You'd prefer to lose a match like that than win an easy one, wouldn't you? Still, it is a sport, and it's competitive. Ultimately, we want to win. We are there for the challenge, both in competing with our opponent, but also with ourselves. Winning isn't everything, but losing hurts. I have a small theorette regarding squash, which is concerned simply with how a player's own result is determined, and it is this. Play the right shot in the correct way. That's it. Like I said, simple. How many times have you lost a rally because you played the right shot, but badly, or played the wrong shot perfectly? Keep playing the right shot in the correct way, and you'll win the rally, the game, the match. Get the equation wrong, and you won't. The fact is that squash players play for fun, but part of the fun, at least that internal sense of enjoyment, as opposed to the outward-facing camaraderie and social enjoyment, is in doing well. Keep doing it well, and you'll have a great time. You may even win. Do it badly, and you may still win, if you're lucky, but there may be a nagging sense of frustration, of dissatisfaction. And it's the fear of the latter, I would contend, that drives us to try and win. Earlier this season, I was in a team match against an opponent I'd witnessed playing several times, but I had never played him myself. This was because in all previous encounters, he played higher up the order than I. This season, I found myself pitted against him, and immediately the little knots of anxiety began to wind themselves tightly. Was I going to be thrashed? If so, then there would be no fun to be had today, and I play for fun. Would I play well, but still be outclassed? Again, very little joy would come my way. Would I end the day wishing I'd played lower down and found myself facing a potentially easier opponent and gaining a soft win? I determined, as I always do, to try and focus on what I can do, rather than worry about being beaten. I tried not to show him anything in the knockup, none of my idiosyncratic shots, or the shots I'm most comfortable with. Opinion is divided on this, I know. Some players like to practice their best shots, get their eye in, and their arm swinging. Others, like me, like to keep something back, make the knockup a very rudimentary affair, and keep back some surprises to throw the opponent off guard at crucial moments. The knockup over, the match began with him serving, and before I knew it, I was a game down. Whatever I did seemed to have little effect, and certainly didn't appear to place any pressure on him. I picked up a few points, but really, I felt diminished and chastened by his ability to get my every shot and to return it in such a way that I was scrambling around. What to do, I wondered. It is 1987, and I've been playing squash for all of 2.5 years, having taken it up to replace the rugby I'd been forced, by a neck injury, to give up. I was an improving novice, but still capable of a good swagger when things were going my way. I'd been playing in a box league for a while, and after initially poor results, had seen my game steadily improve. I was at least winning as often as I lost now, and didn't go into a match expecting to lose, even if I didn't yet expect to win either. I thought I could equip myself well enough. I came up against an opponent, an experienced player in his 40s to my mid-20s, who clearly knew how to hit a ball around a squash court. He was patently of the show-them-all-you-have school of knock-up students. I suspected I was in for a beasting. The match began well for me, and I soon found that I was cantering with liveliness around the court, reading the game and putting the ball where I wanted. In quick succession, I went up 2-love in games up. Bring on the swagger. The third game went just as convincingly, and I served for the match at 2-0 up and 8-0 in the third. I lost the match. I had, nor have, no sound explanation for what went wrong. It just did. I didn't win the point that have won me the match, but instead lost the serve. My opponent then chipped away at my unassailable lead, and there we were, at 8-all. I know that all through the game I kept thinking, I only need a point. I'm bound to win. It's okay. But I lost the game, and the next, and of course, the next. To say I was deflated would be like saying the Titanic let in a little water here and there. Where did I go wrong? Well, I'm not absolutely certain, and let's not take anything away from my opponent either, who stuck at it and didn't give up. I learned a valuable and unforgettable lesson that day, and it has lived within my squash soul ever since. Quite simply, a rally, a game, or match is not over until it is won. I hold that thought at the very forefront of my thinking in any competitive match, and believe no matter how bad the odds that I can win, just as my opponent did all those years ago. In the end, as Curly, the vulnerable character played by Jack Palance in the film City Slickers tells Mitch, it comes down to one thing. In a squash match, there is a danger that we see the big picture, the match, all but won or lost because of everything we've done up to this point. No. All that is gone and no longer means anything. You have to focus all your attention and all of your concentration on one thing and one thing only. Not the game or the match. Put such prizes from your mind. Instead, you must aim only to win the point, this point, when you are serving. Only then can you think about the next point, because that is the next one thing. If you happen to be receiving, then your one thing is to win the serve back, and that is all you should attend to. Once you have the serve, well, you get the picture. This is the lesson I learned in the match I'll never forget. So back to my match earlier this season. 1 game down, and I'm telling myself one thing. We have the second game, and I focus. I concentrate. I don't try to win the game or the match. Just that one thing. Suddenly, I'm 7-1 down. This doesn't matter. This is not the point. People can lose matches from 2-love and 8-up. I know. So I hold my focus, and 8-all. I've managed to earn a tiebreak, and now I just need to focus on getting the next point. I think he also may have been thinking along similar lines at this juncture, because I lost the tiebreak, 2-love down. I go into the third game knowing I'm 2 games down and my opponent needs only to win this game. I know it, but I don't acknowledge it to myself as a thought of any meaning. I know he's not destroying me and that I am competing with him. My only aim is to wrest that serve from him. Somehow, I do. I can't recall where or how, but I did. The remainder of the game was a hard-fought battle, but I stayed with my mantra. One thing. We reach another tiebreak, but this time, I'm victorious. And now, it's 2-1. The fourth game is tight, closely fought, but I begin to feel I'm gaining the upper hand. I'm seeing his shots a little earlier, pushing the ball that little bit further away from him, making him work, controlling the tee. Of course, I throw in a few things that didn't make an appearance in the knock-up. a clever drop where I'd lobbed every time previously, an outlandish reverse angle, but all the time I'm thinking one thing. I win the fourth and we go into the fifth, with me feeling possibly the more satisfied of the two of us. I'd been down, but had worked my way back up until the match was all level again, whereas he had been at the doorstep of victory not so long ago. By now, my opponent, whilst not a spent force, was not the vigorous and lively player of the first two games. That 1987 match was a flashing neon sign in my mind, though, and I knew this match wasn't won until it was won. And so I played for one thing, a point, get the serve back, a point, until finally I was triumphant. The two of us left the court physical wrecks, wet with sweat, limbs shaking from the sheer effort we had made. One of us had won, one had lost, yet we had both had enormous fun. We both knew this would be a match we would remember for some time to come. We both reveled in the fact that we had played our hearts out, and we had shared that exhilarating experience. I think I may have had just a tiny bit more spring in my step, though. Competitive? Me? Of course. I'm a squash player.